It hasn't been good so far, and you say we're just entering a very active couple of weeks ahead.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, who would have thought Ida, the big story, would be flooding in the Northeast after all that? Just amazing stuff. But that's what you get when you get 2 months worth of rainfall in just a few hours. I mean, it was just some catastrophic flooding in the Northeast. Damage from this storm alone is going to be in the billions and billions of dollars. So we've got a long way to go. We haven't even reached peak hurricane season yet. That comes September 15th. But some of the data I look at, it's suggesting that we may actually quiet things down a little bit for the second half of September, which would be a great break. Right now, we're in a period of enhanced tropical activity. That's thanks to this circulative wave that goes across the globe every 45 days or so. Right now, it's smack dab over the Atlantic. So that's why we've seen so much tropical activity. You have this enhanced convection, so you're more likely to get storms. But I think over the next couple of weeks, that wave is going to continue to move across Africa, then back into the Indian Ocean. That means that I think the Atlantic will start to quiet down. So if all goes according to plan, we should have a drier second half of the month than we did the first half of the month. And so it looks like that we got a couple more weeks anyways of very active weather, and then we should start to quiet it down a little bit, Melissa.
Are we looking at a lot more disruptions to the energy industry, Dan?
Well, it's funny, the disruptions, you look at it and you had a Category 4 hurricane go into one of our busiest energy ports in the country, right, Port Fourchon, and you pretty much knocked everything offline and you had a ton of shut-ins. So you'd expect prices to spike because our supply was so disrupted. But a lot of the traders I talk to, they say there's this dichotomy between damage, destruction on the supply side and on the demand side, because what happens when that storm goes inland, you have a lot of rain, you have power outages from the wind, and then your demand for electricity goes down. So there's a balance there. And even though you're disrupting the supply, you're also disrupting the demand. As we saw yesterday up in New York City, all that clouds and rain, it pulls down the demand for electricity generation for cooling demand. So that's what you get in these kind of situations where there's a lot of price volatility. But at the end of the day, you're trying to find this balance between the demand and the supply destruction. So I think going forward, what we really want to look for here is if we can get a hurricane into Texas. That would be a really big supply disruptor into some of those busier ports between Houston and Corpus Christi. But right now, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like the Atlantic seaboard, if anybody, is under the gun over the next month or so. But again, that's something we're going to have to watch more closely over the coming weeks, Melissa.
All right, Dan, great to speak with you. Thank you. Dan Leonard of the Weather Company. Guy Adami, I think that's interesting in terms of the balance there. And so we haven't seen that translate into a spike in energy prices as we have in the past.
Yeah, it's interesting. People try, and obviously, listen, what we're tasked to do is to try to figure out how to trade around these things, but we are sensitive, obviously, to the loss of life and the loss of goods, services, all those different things. So let's be respectful there. With that said, trying to trade commodities around this thing has been a very difficult thing to do. But in terms of the stocks, I mean, Home Depot will win to this. They win to many things. They'll win to this. The stock has obviously sold off over the last couple of weeks, but it found some footing today. So if you're trying to figure out who's going to be the beneficiary here, my sense is Home Depot's at the top of the list.
Yeah, you need a lot of plywood and dehumidifiers and things like that. Mike Coe, where would you go?
Yeah, I mean, I think Home Depot obviously would be a good choice. I mean, there are obviously going to be more do-it-yourselfers obviously trying to fix things up as well. That obviously would bolster their competition in the form of Lowe's, Home Depot being probably about 40% of their revenues coming from the professional side, and I would expect to see a pickup over there. Of course, Lowe's did get a boost off of their earnings where Home Depot did not. So I think Home Depot might actually be the one that's a better play here, even though it is slightly more expensive on a valuation basis.
When you see what